Yo, what is up guys? Cinestics here, Battlefield Play for Free commentator and Battlefield Radio co-host, coming at you with another gameplay commentary and review of the M98 Bravo. It is a rank 30 unlock for the Recon class, and the prices will will be revealed later on once it makes it into the store. Now I gotta go into some quick stats of this weapon, simple stuff, as far as magazine, bullet drop, reload time, etc, etc. Now, for the total ammunition you have is 18, with 6 rounds per magazine and 3 magazines total. Nothing much to boast, being that most bolt actions do have 3 magazines to 4 magazines, and 6 to 7 to 8 rounds total per magazine. But I do find with this weapon, being that the majority of the time I do get body shots and or not complete one-shot kills to the head. I've seen where I've gotten 107 damage to the head. I find that I go through those 6 rounds a lot quicker if you're using 2 rounds to kill somebody, but if the majority of the time if it's a medic and or someone with adrenaline, you will be popping out a lot more shots if you're not consistent with the actual headshot, or how well you are performing a headshot with this weapon. But in this video in particular, I'm not really good at that because I'm still trying to determine where it is. I'm not using any attachments on it. I feel it's kind of random. I have no definite idea of where this bullet drop is. It's still new to me, and what's funny about it though, I find myself using this weapon. I did a lot better with it at close range, which you'll see mostly in this video, than I did at long range with it. You would think the M98 Bravo, being a 338, would be a lot better at long range, and it didn't perform that well. Maybe because of lack of attachments or the actual environment I was in, but I find with the actual scope down speed and the initial damage and just how easy it was to use in close range was shocking to me. It just didn't seem like it was supposed to fit that role. But now, as for reload time, I'm gonna try to get out of my personal opinions and kind of get to that later, but for reload time we come in at 4.4 seconds. I can't really say if that's faster or on par with the other bolt actions. I gotta say it's not that slow, and to be honest, once you throw on casket mags or Viper mags, you won't really have to reload as often, so it's not that big of a deal. 4.4 seconds isn't bad at all. Now, the projectile velocity is 475, so that means it's going to have a higher bullet drop, and I find that it does. I can't really compare it to another weapon. I would say over the M24 it's quite similar, maybe not as much as the M95. So I can't really say for sure about that. Like I said, my knowledge as far as like specific stats for the weapon are really low, but I think actually, you know what, it is more than the M24, which should be obvious. I should have known that. But alright, on to other things. Now, for the absolute range of this weapon, it goes up to 268 meters. Of course, you can kill out of that range, but that's just the absolute range as far as certain damage goes. I think that means like the actual when the long range starts, what damage it's going to do at a certain range until then, etc, etc. Now, that's really all I can go into as far as detailed stats. I mean, there's no need for going into recoil and group size, hip fire, crouch, all this stuff. I was about to say couch. All this stuff I'm reading on the stats page right now. So it's really, I don't know. I'm not really that knowledgeable when it comes to all this. Y'all should know that by now. But anyways, now I could go into the actual delay when aimed down sight and delay to switch to weapon. It's 0.4 seconds, which is the same as the M24 and a few other weapons. Actually, I had said that the aim down sight seemed quicker when it's the same as the M24 and some other weapons at 0.25 seconds. So not that big a difference. Now I can go into the initial range and damage though, because I can read that off of here pretty well. As for the body shot damage at, let's see, damage modifiers, initial range, body shot damage. At the initial range, it's 67 to 73 damage, 141 for a headshot, and 153 for a headshot, up to the initial range. For body shot, 67 to 77, with 141 to 162. Oh, you know what? I just realized I'm reading both the M24 and the M98 stats. Anyways, as for the body shot at medium range, it does 57 to 63 damage. Then 120 damage to 132 damage for headshots, and at long range you go from 50 damage to 54 damage, and 105 damage to 113 damage for a headshot. So yeah, at long range, 105 damage. I've noticed I was getting like 105 to 107, and that's without any attachments that buff the actual damage. So Viper Mags might be a must for this weapon, especially if you plan to use it at longer ranges, which I believe it's what it's supposed to be intended for, especially with its super sniper scope that it comes default with, which I will go into that right now. That scope, to be honest, and no one's telling me to say this, the scope is terrible. You have to learn bullet drop for each little, time you zoom in just a little bit. Even if it's just a little bit, you have to learn it, or a lot. Whichever it is, it's a really useless feature for the scope. It's more realistic as far as zooming in goes, but I find that just the ballistic scope, or the ballistic range ace, where it's just a, one scroll zoom in, is much more valuable and understandable and easier to use. So I don't find that it's all that useful. It's unique, but I don't see its, why it was really implemented into this weapon in general. I don't find that it really serves a good purpose, to be honest. But anyways, going on to some distance for initial range, medium range, and long range. Now, 0 meters to 35 meters, that's when it cuts into medium range. Medium range goes from 35 meters to 75 meters, and then distance from long range is 75 meters and infinite. So it just goes on. Now, of course, that just means the majority of your body shots to kill are going to be 2 even, over longer ranges, though it says it can go up to about 50 to 54 damage at longer ranges. Now, as for other things about this weapon, not much else I can say besides my personal opinions and or attachments I can suggest for it. Now, being that it's a bolt action, majority of the time I'm going to suggest precision barrel. Stock is default, do whatever you want. To be honest, tactical would probably work best because, like I said, I've been using this weapon at close range, and the hip fire and just how well it performed with quick scopes and no scopes, probably using a tactical stock wouldn't hurt. I don't think it's going to make that all much of a difference, since it only affects it if it's aimed down sight, etc., etc. But tactical if you need to have a stock. Now, as far as magazines go, like I said, if that whole 105 damage at long range, it's probably best to go with Viper magazines. Though, if you really need to increase the mag size and or mag count, I would go with high capacity or casket mags to buff it up to, casket mags would buff it up to 12 rounds, because it's 6 rounds total, or standard, and plus 6 rounds for the casket mags. So 12 rounds isn't a bad deal to have for this weapon if you plan on using it from medium to you could still use it at long range. Not everyone has 110 to 105 health, so you can still use it in that sense, but I find that Vipers, if you really want to be guaranteed that one-shot headshot. Besides that, can't really suggest anything else for the magazine. As I said, standard barrel and or precision barrel. Most people probably go with Predator, though precision barrel has the most effect on bullet drop. As for scope choices, though, if you have the Desert Ballistic or the Ballistic Range Ace, it would probably be a better choice for the scope, and or lower zoom if you plan on using it for close range. It's really pick you choose, do what you want, whichever works for you. I'm probably going to use the Desert Ballistic or the Ballistic Range Ace on it, so I can still have a multi-zoom, but a better just a better zoom. I do not like this zoom. I'm so used to just flicking my mouse scroll forward once and it just going all the way there. Now it goes with each little notch, and it's quite annoying, to be honest. But besides that, love that shot right there. It's one of the things that I really enjoyed about it. I mean, any other bolt action probably could have done that, but to sound as cool as it did and to just look as cool as it does with that shot just makes it 10 times better. Now, I'm going to suggest some actual secondaries for this weapon. Of course, depending on the type of role you're playing as a recon, whereas here I camped a little bit, but I did defend the B objective majority of the time, and I tried to keep my motion sensors out as much as I could, and tried to play somewhat aggressively because I'm really indifferent about this weapon at the time with this round. This was one of my first or second rounds with it. I tried it on Oman. It didn't prove successful, maybe because of the lack of attachments, etc. But as for secondaries, I suggest the P226 as I was using here, and or pretty much anything. The Recon benefits for mostly anything, but with the P26 range and damage and overall just usefulness and all-roundedness the weapon has, it's pretty much ideal for the Recon class and ideal for uses with this weapon, because you just pull it out and bam, if you hit them with the 105 damage or you hit them with 50 damage, you pull off 2 or 3 shots with the pistol, that's it, they're down. Majority of the time, actually, just one shot with the pistol will finish them off. Same with the M1911 and or MP443 and 93R, etc., etc. But I find the P226 work well with this weapon, not just because of its overall stats, but just the ammunition and the overall look of the weapon too. I find it complements the whole steel, weapon steelish gray color this weapon comes default with. Same with as the P226 has, and you know, it's just ideal, especially if you get stuck in those close range engagements. If you're using it for long range, it's good to have. But like I said, to each his own. It's like this. It's like this. The scope, the optic. It's pick, you choose, whatever works for you. Well, that's all I really have to say about this gameplay commentary. I hope to get a second review of it with actual attachments on it. I'm really looking forward to actually unlocking this weapon. I really want it. Out of all the weapons coming out, I'm not usually the big fan of Recon, but in this case, I'm really looking forward to it, even over the LSAT and the MTAR. I think they did a good job with it. I wish they would have done something different for its whole useful or uniqueness, rather than just the scope it comes with. But it's definitely going to be worth the rank 30 unlock, especially once y'all can get some attachments on it and etc. Which, like I said, I told my clanmates and whatnot, if you're going to get this weapon, your majority of the time you're probably going to be rank 30 or spending a lot of money for it, so you're going to have attachments on it. Not many people are really going to be renting this or using it without attachments, so the usefulness for a commentary of this weapon without attachments, there's not much use for that. But you know, they gave me a trial for it. I greatly appreciated it, and I took advantage of it, and did what I could with what little time I had this weekend, and I can't thank them enough. And I hope y'all enjoyed this gameplay commentary. And as always, much love and respect on the battlefield, soldiers.